So imagine you're playing a big game with your friends where everyone agrees how many marbles they can take from a shared jar. Now, what if one player suddenly says, "I'm not playing by the group rules anymore. I'll take as many marbles as I want." That's kind of what happened when the United Arab Emirates, UAE, decided to leave OPEC and OPEC Plus on May 1st, 2026. This is a huge deal because the UAE has been part of this oil group for nearly 60 years, since 1967 when Abu Dhabi, which later became part of the UAE, joined. Now they're stepping out, and it could change how oil prices work around the world. Hello and welcome. I am Rick Orban. And you have started watching The Truth Global. Now, what is OPEC? Let's break it down. OPEC stands for the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. It was created in 1960 by countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and Venezuela. Their big goal? To work together and control how much oil they sell so they can keep prices stable or sometimes high. Think of it like a club. If too much oil is sold, prices drop, like a sale at a store. If they sell less, prices go up. OPEC tries to balance that. Then, in 2016, they made a bigger group called OPEC Plus, which includes non-OPEC countries like Russia. Together, they control a big chunk of the world's oil, about 36.7% in 2025. The UAE was the fourth largest oil producer in OPEC, pumping about 3.1 million barrels per day. That's like filling over 12,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools with oil every day. Why did the UAE leave? Great question. The UAE said this was a sovereign national decision. Fancy words for, we're doing what's best for us. Here's why. They want to produce more oil. Right now, they can make about 3.4 million barrels a day, but they're building up to 5 million by 2027. Being in OPEC meant they had to follow production limits, quotas, which slowed them down. They've been frustrated with OPEC for a while. The UAE wanted to pump more, but Saudi Arabia, the leader of OPEC, often said no. There's also tension because of the war with Iran. Iran, another OPEC member, has been launching missile and drone attacks on the UAE. At the same time, the Strait of Hormuz, a super important waterway for oil, has been closed or restricted, making it hard to ship oil. So, the UAE thought, why stay in a club that limits us and includes countries attacking us? Trump's reaction. Now, enter Donald Trump, the US president. When reporters asked him about the UAE leaving OPEC, he said, "I think it's great." He said it 2 times, once on April 29th, 2026, and again the next day. Why? Because Trump has never liked OPEC. He's called them a cartel and said they rip off the rest of the world by keeping oil prices high. Trump believes that if the UAE pumps more oil, there will be more supply, and that could bring down gas and oil prices in the US, which is good for American drivers and the economy. He also praised UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, calling him a great leader and saying, he probably wants to go his own way. That's a good thing. What happens next? So, what's the big picture? The UAE can now pump more oil whenever they want, up to that 5 million barrels a day goal. This could weaken OPEC, since they're losing about 15% of their production capacity. One analyst even called it the beginning of the end of OPEC. If oil prices drop, it could help countries like the US, but hurt others that depend on high oil prices. And guess what? Qatar left OPEC in 2019, and now some experts wonder, who's next? Maybe Iraq or others will want more freedom too. For now, the UAE says they still care about global energy stability and will add oil to the market gradually. But one thing's for sure, the world of oil just got a lot more interesting. So here's the deal. The UAE leaving OPEC could lower global gas prices in the long run, but not right away, and here's why. Right now, on April 30th, 2026, gas prices are actually going up, not down. Why? Because the Strait of Hormuz, a super important oil shipping route, is mostly shut due to the war with Iran. That's cutting off 10 to 12 million barrels of oil per day from global markets. So even though the UAE is leaving OPEC to pump more oil, they can't get it out yet. That's why Brent crude oil is trading at around $117 to $120 a barrel, really high. And US gas prices are at a 4-year high, averaging $4.23 per gallon. In some places, like Los Angeles, prices are even over $8 a gallon. But here's the future part. The UAE has the ability to produce up to 5 million barrels of oil per day, but OPEC was limiting them to 3.2 million. Now that they're out, they can pump more once the strait reopens. Analysts say this extra oil could meet 1 to 2% of global daily demand. More supply usually means lower prices, so gas prices could start to drop in the second half of 2026 or in 2027, especially if the UAE ramps up fast and other OPEC members follow. Also, a weaker OPEC means less control over prices, which could lead to a more competitive oil market, and that often means cheaper gas for consumers. So in short, long-term, prices could go down. Short-term, prices are still rising because of war and shipping blockages. So, who might leave OPEC next? Based on what experts are saying, a few countries are showing signs they might follow the UAE's lead. Number 1, Kazakhstan. Why? They've been producing more oil than their OPEC Plus quota allows, what's called overproducing. Analyst Matt Smith from Kepler said Kazakhstan might see the UAE's exit as a chance to leave too and pump freely. Right now, they're part of OPEC Plus, but not fully obeying the rules, just like the UAE did before leaving. Number 2, Nigeria. Why? Nigeria is focusing on refining its own oil at home, especially using the new Dangote refinery, one of the biggest in the world. That means they care less about selling crude oil on the global market and more about making fuel locally. Because OPEC limits how much oil members can pump, Nigeria might feel it's not worth staying in the group. Number 3, Venezuela. Why? Their oil production is growing fast, and if politics shift to be more friendly with the US, they might want freedom to sell more oil without restrictions. Analysts like Saul Kavanik say Venezuela could be next off the rank if they want more control. But not everyone is leaving. Iraq, the third largest OPEC producer, says it has no plans to leave. They want stable oil prices and still benefit from being in the group. Saudi Arabia, the leader of OPEC, is not going anywhere. They still want to control prices with the group. Bottom line, the UAE's exit has opened the door. If other countries feel frustrated with quotas or think they can do better on their own, they might leave too. Kazakhstan and Nigeria are the top flight risks right now. OPEC does not have any formal mechanism to prevent a member country from leaving. Think of OPEC like a club, where countries join voluntarily to work together on oil production and prices. But just like you can quit a club, any member can leave whenever they want. There's no rule that forces them to stay. The UAE's exit on May 1st, 2026 shows this clearly. They announced their decision based on national interests and frustration with production limits, especially disagreements with Saudi Arabia, the group's leader. And they're not the first. Qatar left in 2019 to focus on natural gas. Angola left in 2024 over quota disputes. Ecuador and Indonesia have also left and rejoined at different times. Since OPEC runs on agreement and cooperation, not strict rules, it can't punish or stop a country from exiting. It just has to deal with the consequences, like losing influence over global oil supply. So, how does OPEC adjust quotas after a member leaves? OPEC adjusts quotas after a member leaves by redistributing the departing country's quota among remaining members. But the process is not automatic or rule-based. It's decided through negotiation. Here's how it works. OPEC doesn't have a fixed formula. Instead, quotas are set based on factors like production capacity, economic needs, and political influence. When a country like the UAE leaves, its 3.1 million barrel per day quota is no longer part of the total. The remaining members, like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Nigeria, then discuss how to fill that gap. In the past, extra capacity has been given to countries that can actually pump more oil, like Saudi Arabia, the swing producer, or Kuwait. Sometimes, the group chooses not to redistribute all the missing oil, especially if demand is low or prices are stable. For example, when Qatar left in 2019, its small quota wasn't redistributed. OPEC kept the total output lower to support prices. Now, with the UAE's exit in 2026, analysts expect Saudi Arabia and Iraq to absorb most of the extra capacity, but only if market conditions allow. Is Russia in profit? Yes, Russia is benefiting a lot from the Strait of Hormuz crisis, even though it's not in the Middle East. Here's how. The Strait of Hormuz is blocked, cutting off 20 million barrels of oil per day from the Gulf. That's caused global oil prices to jump, over $117 a barrel in April 2026. Since oil is so expensive, Russia can sell its oil for much more, even with Western sanctions. Analysts say Russia is making an extra $9.7 billion per month in oil revenue because of the crisis. Countries like India and China are buying more Russian oil to replace lost Middle Eastern supplies. The US even gave India a temporary waiver to keep buying Russian oil, something that wasn't allowed before. So while Ukraine's drone attacks have damaged some Russian ports, like Ust-Luga and Primorsk, the higher prices make up for it. Russia's oil revenues are still skyrocketing. In short, high prices equals big profits for Russia, even if they can't export as much. The longer the strait stays closed, the more money Russia makes. Now the question is how the US benefits from the UAE leaving OPEC, now and in the future. Well, right now, oil prices are high, over $110 a barrel, because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked due to war with Iran. So the UAE can't export much extra oil yet. But the US oil industry wins. Companies like Exxon, XOM, and Occidental Petroleum, OXY, are making more money because oil prices are high. President Trump sees this as a win. He's always said OPEC rips off the world by keeping prices high. Weakening OPEC helps his goal of lower gas prices. In the future, once the war ends and shipping resumes, the UAE plans to pump up to 5 million barrels a day, way more than before. That extra oil could lower global oil and gas prices, which means cheaper gas at the pump for Americans. It also helps US energy companies because a weaker OPEC means more competition and more room for US shale oil to grow. So, in short, now, US oil companies profit from high prices. Later, cheaper gas and stronger US energy influence. Final thought. The UAE's exit is a historic shift. It shows OPEC is losing grip in a changing energy world. While prices won't drop overnight, the long-term trend points to more supply, less cartel power, and possibly cheaper gas, if peace returns to the Gulf. So that's it for now. See you again for one more interesting topic like this. Till then, goodbye.